Hello, my name is Jasmine Boland. I am the teen and adult programmer here at the Pine Bluff-Jefferson County Library. Today, we're going to be reading some of this book, not all of it, and then we'll be doing a little craft. So this is a series of books called The Adventures of the Bailey School Kids. Now, when I was a kid, these were my favorite books. I had every book in the series. This one is called Frankenstein Doesn't Plant Petunias. And once we get done reading, if you feel like you really want to check this book out, just give the library a call or go online and reserve the book. Come up, call us from your car, and we will check the book out to you and then bring it to the car for you so that you can finish the story and find out what happens. Okay, Frankenstein doesn't plant petunias. And this is written by Debbie Dady and Marcia Thornton Jones. 1. Field trip. Melody twisted her black pigtail and looked out the bus window at the cloudy sky. I can't wait to get to the Shelley Museum. Miss Jeepers' third grade class from Bailey Elementary School was on a bus heading for the Shelley Museum of Science. It was the last field trip before summer vacation. Melody was sitting in the middle of the bus with her friends Liza, Eddie, and Howie. Howie nodded. This is the best trip ever. Eddie made a face. Other kids get to go to a water world, but we have to go to an old science museum. Science museums can be a lot of fun, Melody told her friends. I went to one in Indianapolis that was incredible. It's incredible that they didn't keep you for an exhibit, Eddie giggled. If the Shelley Museum is doing experiments on smart Alex, you'd better watch out, Melody stuck out her tongue at Eddie. The kids on the bus bounced up and down as they went over an old bridge. My mother told me that the museum was closed after an electrical storm damaged the building, Melody said. This is the first time it's been open in 14 years. It's supposed to have lots of new stuff, even a prehistoric exhibit. Maybe there's a bad exhibit and Miss Jeepers can visit her friends, Eddie joked. Shh, she's looking this way, Melody whispered. The 4 kids smiled as Miss Jeepers looked back from the front seat. Her long, fire-red hair was neatly pulled back by a green bow. Purple fingernails gently rubbed the emerald green brooch on her polka-dotted dress. When Miss Jeepers turned to speak to the bus driver, Eddie bragged, I'm not afraid of Miss Jeepers. I don't care if she is Count Dracula's cousin. Miss Jeepers was from Transylvania and seemed to have special powers, especially when she rubbed her brooch. Most of the kids in the 3rd grade at Bailey Elementary thought she was a vampire. I hope we get there soon, Liza said in a small voice. This bus is making me sick. Hold on, Howie said. I think I see the museum. All I see is dust, Eddie coughed as they turned onto a dirt road. Dust filled the bus as they bounced from one pothole to another. The kids covered their noses until the bus lurched to a stop. When the dust settled, they looked out the grimy windows. Now I know Miss Jeepers is batty, Eddie said. 2. The Shelley Museum. Everyone filed off the bus and stared up at the old museum. It was 4 stories tall and stood on the top of a hill surrounded by towering oak trees. Shingles were missing from the roof and broken shutters banged in the wind. The whole building needed a paint job. This place looks like it's ready to fall in a heap, Melody said. I guess they never got around to fixing it after it was struck by lightning, Howie said. Maybe lightning fried the owner's brains, Eddie laughed. A distant rumble of thunder could be heard as dark clouds swirled above. Spooky. All right, children, Miss Jeepers clapped her hands. Let us begin our tour. As she led the class up the crumbling steps of the museum, the yellow school bus disappeared down the long dirt road. Do you still feel sick, Melody asked Liza. You look a little pale. Liza pulled her jacket tight and shrugged. There's something very strange about this place. Like what? Howie asked. I've seen it before, she said. But you've never been here, Melody said. I haven't, Liza whispered. That's why it bothers me. Boogers bother you, Eddie rolled his eyes. Come on, we have to catch up. Miss Jeepers and the rest of the class were gathered in front of a huge wooden door. Where's the doorbell? Carrie asked. Miss Jeepers smiled an odd little half smile. This is a very old building. We must use the door knocker. She lifted the heavy iron knocker and let it fall with a thud. There was no answer. The third graders huddled by the door. Maybe no one's home, Liza said. Nonsense, Miss Jeepers smiled. They're expecting us. I hope they hurry, Carrie said. It's starting to rain, and the bus won't be back for hours. Then the door slowly creaked open. Chapter 3, Dr. Victor and Frank. Lightning cracked across the sky as Miss Jeepers and the third graders stared up at a towering giant of a man. His long legs stuck out of his brown, ragged pants, and a wrinkled white shirt stretched across his massive chest. His square face was pale next to his coal-black hair, and across his cheek was a huge purple scar. He's got a gun, Howie whispered to his friends. He pointed to the man's pocket where the handle of a pistol peeped out. The third graders took one step away from the Hulk as he glared down at the group of kids. Miss Jeepers stretched out her hand and smiled. Hello, I'm Miss Jeepers. And this is my class from Bailey Elementary School. We're here to visit the museum. The giant lifted one enormous hand and pushed the door back. An ugly scar reached all around his bony wrist. He grunted as Miss Jeepers stalked in. The third graders followed, staying as far from the giant as possible. Did you see that waffle face? Eddie whispered when they were all inside the entrance hall. Howie nodded. He has more scars than I have freckles. He's so tall, Melody whispered. I've never seen anyone that big before. The big man led them down a dark hall. Science exhibits filled the rooms on both sides. Tables covered with rocks lined the hall, and huge posters of labeled rocks covered the cracked walls, too. I could have stayed in my driveway and had more fun playing with the gravel, Eddie fussed. Quit complaining, Eddie, Melanie snapped. You know you'd rather be here than at school doing math. Math is starting to look better and better, Eddie whispered as they were led into a room full of mummies. A small man in a white jacket greeted them. That will be all, Frank. You have work to do elsewhere in the museum. Frank glared down at the children once more before disappearing down a dark hallway. The small man greeted the students, his eyes darting from face to face. Welcome to the Shelley Museum. I am the museum curator, Dr. Victor. And I see you've already met my assistant, Frank. And I'm looking forward to showing you the museum. I think you will be amazed. I think it's already amazing, Eddie whispered. What do you mean? Asked Howie. It's incredible that a weasel and a giant run a museum. It's more incredible that you think, Liza muttered to her friends as the rest of the class followed Dr. Victor into the next room. I have to tell you something. What's your problem? Eddie asked. You've been acting strange, Melody said. What's wrong? You'll just laugh, Liza said. No, we won't. Melody gave Eddie a dirty look. Will we, Eddie? Eddie rolled his eyes. Nothing she says surprises me. The three kids huddled around Liza. My older brother had to read a book for an English report, Liza said softly. He read it to me to scare me. Book reports scare me too, Eddie snickered. Liza shook her head. I wasn't scared, at least not then, because it didn't seem real, but now it does. What was the book about? Howie asked. Liza took a shaky breath and began. Long ago, a young scientist started secret experiments. He sneaked into cemeteries late at night to steal what he needed. Then he worked hundreds of hours putting his creation together. Liza paused. Outside, hissed, and a tree limb scraped against the window. The kids jumped. and then looked back at Liza. What was the creation? Howie whispered. It was a monster brought back from the dead. That's disgusting, Melanie said. Eddie slapped Liza on the back. I think it's cool. But it wasn't, Liza told him. The scientist was afraid of his own creation. He fled and the monster was forced to fend for himself. A monster ought to be able to take care of himself, Eddie said. I do it all the time. Liza shook her head. It's easy for you. You're only half as hideous as the monsters. That's a matter of opinion, Melody joked. What happened to the monster? Howie interrupted. For a while, he roamed through the woods. He loved nature, especially flowers. But when people saw him, they were so frightened they tried to kill him. He was deadly afraid of fire, and people chased him with torches. The monster had no choice. He had to kill or be killed. That's terrible, Melody said. What's the name of that story anyway? Howie asked. Liza looked at her friends before answering. Frankenstein. I saw that movie on the Late Show, Eddie said. What does that have to do with this old museum? Liza spoke softly. This museum looks just like a picture in the book. Where's the monster? Howie asked as thunder rumbled overhead. Liza's face grew pale. We just saw the monster, and his name is Frank. And that's all we're going to read today. As I said, if you're interested, you can check it out by calling or reserving it online. I'm going to show you, to go along with our story today, how to make two different flowers. One little lily and one is a little tulip. What you need is construction paper, pipe cleaner. I use tape, straw, scissors, and something to draw with. So first, what we're going to do is make the lily. And first, what you need to do is trace your hand, all your fingers. And then cut it out. You might need help from an adult. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just following the lines we made. Made that one perfect. Once you have your hand, you're going to take the fingers and just use a pencil, a pen, anything round, and roll it up so that it curves at the top. I'm going to do that to all the fingers. Okay, now that we have our fingers, we're going to take our pipe cleaner, the orange one. We're going to take it so that the curl is facing out, and we're going to wrap it around the orange pipe cleaner. And then loosen it up a little bit, so that the fingers look like petals. And you can glue it if you want, but I'm using tape because it's a little less messy and I don't have to wait for it to dry. So you want to make sure your pipe cleaner's up enough so that you can see it, so it looks like the inside of an actual flower. I'm going to take some more tape and make sure that it's snug against the paper so it doesn't slide around once I get it where I want it. Then what I'm going to do is use a little bit of this green paper and wrap it around this part so that it looks like the actual stem of the flower. Make it a little bit tighter down at the bottom. There we go. And then we're going to cut it when we get it to the length that we want. And then we're going to use a little more tape, if I can get it to work. And then I'm going to move it up a little bit and tape it right there too, so that. And then I'm going to make some leaves, and I'm just going to cut the paper so that it is at a little angle, and then I'm going to make another one. So then we have two. They don't have to be perfect. And I'm going to do the same thing to them I did to the fingers, roll them so they're a little curved. That. And then I'm going to stick the little leaves in the top where the green meets the red. And I'm going to cut off this smaller part right here. And you have flower. Then I'm going to show you how to make this tulip using a straw. It's pretty easy. You're going to want to draw a half circle, and I'll show you what it looks like because it's a little difficult to explain. But if you've seen a tulip, you know what it looks like. You're going to draw up, make a little W, and end it right here. Then we're going to cut it. And then just cut the outline, trace around it. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again, doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if it's not. Okay. Then what I like to do to make sure it's symmetrical, I'm gonna fold the flower part in half, and we're gonna make two little cuts sideways. One right on top of each other. And you'll see it a little bit better in a minute. Okay, then we're gonna do the accordion style fold back and forth, until we've done that to the entire flower. Okay, and then it will look like this. Then we take our straw and we're going to place it in the bottom cut and then through the top cut. So you have your little stem, and then I'm gonna add a little flower, leaf to it. I'm just gonna tape it to the back of the straw. And you can wrap the straw in green if you want. It is a little time consuming, but you're more than welcome to. But the straw is kind of cool too. And I'm just using some of the paper I had left over right now to make the leaves. And there we have a tulip. So pretty easy little craft to do. If you want to find out if Frankenstein does indeed plant petunias and likes flowers as much as they claim, don't forget you can still call us or get the book reserved online and come, and we will come to the curb and meet you for curbside service so that you can still get the books.